Rick Lagina never thought that one quiet day on Oak Island would lead to one of the most shocking moments of his entire life. The morning began like any other day on the site. The air was calm, the sky was clear, and the crew was busy with their usual survey work near the garden shaft. Nothing looked unusual. There were no strange sounds, no odd weather changes, and no signs that something rare was hidden under the soil. But that was the strange thing about Oak Island. It always revealed its secrets when no one expected anything at all. On that day, the crew was running a shallow metal scan in an area they had checked many times before. They were not looking for anything big. Everyone assumed that if something showed up on the device, it would be a rusted tool, an old pipe, or a small relic from past searchers. They had seen hundreds of things like that over the years. So when the machine picked up a signal at a depth of around 18 to 21 feet, nobody reacted with excitement. Marty even joked that it was probably an old toolbox pretending to be treasure. The crew laughed a little and kept working, but the machine was giving a strange reading. It was sharp, stable, and far too clean to be junk. Even though the crew did not take it seriously at first, Rick felt something different. He had seen many signals in his life, but this one felt unusual. When the digging began, the top layers of soil looked normal. Everything was clean and loose, the way natural soil should be. But as the crew went deeper, the soil suddenly changed. It became packed, almost as if someone had pressed it down on purpose many, many years ago. This caught everyone's attention. Packed soil meant something was placed there intentionally. The crew paused for a moment and looked at each other. They still did not expect a major find, but they knew something was not normal. Then the excavator bucket hit something with a low metal thud. The sound made everyone stop talking. For a brief moment, the entire site became completely silent. Even Marty stopped joking and turned toward the dig pit. The sound was too deep and too clear to be a rock. The operator continued digging gently, and within minutes, the top of an object appeared through the dirt. It was a long, rectangular chest covered in layers of old soil. The chest was about 13 to 14 inches long, but it was heavy. Two men had to lift it together. The wood of the chest looked old, yet it was strangely well preserved. It did not look like something that had decayed naturally underground. It looked like someone had prepared it to survive for centuries. At first, everyone believed it was an old carpenter's box or a tool chest left by early workers. But Rick's instincts kicked in. He felt the same quiet alarm he had felt during other big discoveries. Something about the chest was not normal. The crew brought the chest straight into the lab, where Dr. Spooner and Emma began to examine it. Right from the first scan, everything changed. The outer layer of the chest showed traces of sealing resin. This resin was not local. It came from a European trade route that existed between the 15th and 17th centuries. The moment Emma saw the resin reading, she whispered, "This shouldn't be here." The team checked the material density next. The wood of the chest was around 350 to 400 years old. For a moment, no one spoke.
This was not just an old box. This was something that had crossed the ocean centuries ago. But the real shock came when Emma found tiny spots of gold hidden inside cracks in the wood. She put the piece under her microscope and said, "This chest was in contact with pure gold." Rick's eyes lit up. It was the same spark he had when he knew something big was about to unfold. Dr. Spooner scanned the chest again and detected the outline of a flat metallic object inside. The reading suggested a plate, possibly gold inlaid. The purity levels the machine detected matched the royal craftsmanship of the old world. This was not something made by a village craftsman. This was something created for a king or for royal trade. Emma studied the chemical pattern of the resin again and found that it came from a rare region near Spain and Portugal. That discovery alone was big enough to change historical theories. But there was more. As the surface of the chest was cleaned, strange carvings began to appear. At first, the markings looked like simple scratches, but under UV light, hidden Latin letters slowly appeared. The patterns were not random. They looked like sealing codes used by ancient merchants. Then Emma identified the crest carved into the chest. It matched a rare Iberian royal insignia. Only 3 of these insignias were known to exist in the world. If this chest truly belonged to that royal house, then Oak Island was now connected to a lost shipment worth millions. Rick stood silently, absorbing every detail. He understood the seriousness of what they had found. If the outside world discovered this, the site could be shut down. The government could declare the artifact a cultural treasure and take control of the entire dig. The media could explode with headlines. Treasure hunters from all over the world could rush to Oak Island. Rick did not want chaos. He wanted to protect the discovery, so he made a decision. He would keep the full truth limited only to a few people. The chest was moved to a vault. Only Rick, Marty, and Dr. Spooner knew everything. Even the TV production team was kept in the dark. Rick wanted the items safe before any message or rumor leaked out. When the night came for the opening of the chest, the atmosphere in the lab was tense. Rick stood with gloves on, completely serious. This was no longer about TV or entertainment. This was about history. Dr. Spooner began softening the resin seal carefully. After some time, the lid finally began
Loosen. A faint metallic smell came out the moment the seal broke. It smelled like ancient gold. Everyone took a deep breath. Rick lifted the lid. The room filled with a golden glow. Inside lay a gold inlaid plate, perfectly flat, smooth, designed with a level of craftsmanship that was almost unbelievable. The engravings on the edges were royal. The symbols at the center seemed to be part of some old message or code. The plate showed almost no corrosion. Something that old should have been damaged, but it looked clean, protected, and almost untouched. Emma lifted it with her gloves and whispered, "This belongs in a museum." But this was not just a museum piece. It was a life-changing artifact. As more experts arrived, the findings became even more shocking. The purity of the gold was around 91 to 93%, matching the material used only by old European royal workshops. The age of the plate was estimated between 320 and 380 years old. It matched the royal cargo records that had been lost centuries ago. Experts valued the piece between $1.8 million and $2.4 million. Before the full report was done, 2 private buyers showed up. They arrived in black SUVs, wearing suits. They walked to security and said the same strange line, "We are here for the plate." No one knew how they found out. One buyer made an instant offer, $2 million, no questions, no paperwork, no negotiation. The second buyer said he could transfer the money within the same day and keep the deal quiet. This unusual reaction made Rick nervous. These people clearly knew more than they were letting on. The crew sensed danger. Something was off about the deal. But Rick had to make a decision, and after hours of pressure, confusion, and fear, the sale was completed. The crew expected the money to go to the museum or the show, but Rick did something that no one saw coming. He called everyone into the dinner tent. Then he pulled out envelopes and handed them out one by one. Everyone looked confused at first, but the moment they opened the envelopes, the entire room fell silent. Each envelope contained a huge payout. Some had $42,000. Some had $55,000. Jack dropped his envelope in shock. Charles stared without blinking. Billy was speechless. No one had ever seen Rick do something like this. Rick simply said, "You are family. This win belongs to all of us." People got emotional. Some even had tears in their eyes. Rick had proven that loyalty mattered more than treasure. But the moment Marty heard what Rick did, He became uneasy. He hugged Rick at first, but then he questioned him. Marty wanted to discuss the buyers, the money, and the legal side before making such a big decision. Rick told him gently that sometimes the heart leads better than the mind. Marty struggled with the moment, but in the end, the brothers stood together. Then the next shock came.
History Channel heard about the private sale. They were furious. They rushed to understand how the discovery happened, why it was not filmed, and why the deal was made in secret. They warned Rick that the sale could be a contract breach. They feared fans would accuse the show of hiding treasure finds. Tension grew between Rick and the network. They wanted answers. But Rick wanted silence. He did not want the world to know about the plate or the symbols on the chest. When the chest carvings were scanned again using AI, the story became even deeper. The tiny scratches on the inner lining were actually coded maps. They looked like ancient trade routes, coastlines, and hidden cargo paths. AI also found that the wood of the chest came from Iberian forests used for royal transport. Then the scanner detected hook-like marks on the side of the gold plate. These marks matched Templar shipment designs used hundreds of years ago. The crew realized they had only found the start of something huge. But then the biggest twist arrived. After removing the chest, the crew decided to scan the same spot again. They expected the readings to calm down, but the opposite happened. The ground began to show stronger metallic echoes than before. The screen turned red with heavy signals. Dr. Spooner checked the depth. The new reading came from another layer beneath the chest, around 8 to 10 feet deeper. This meant the chest was only the first part. Something even larger was buried below. Emma said that the readings looked like a heavy metallic structure or a sealed chamber. The crew looked at each other in shock. If the plate alone was worth $2 million, how much more could be under the ground? Rick stood over the spot as the machine screamed with signals. He whispered, "There's more." That night, no one slept properly. The crew felt the same fear and excitement that only Oak Island could create. They secured the area and prepared to drill deeper the next day. Rick knew that whatever was buried beneath could change everything. It could be history. It could be danger. It could be treasure that no one on the team had ever imagined. When the video ends, Rick looks at the camera with a serious face and says, "If this small chest was worth $2 million, you cannot imagine what is still hidden underneath." The story ends with anticipation, tension, and curiosity. The narrator then says in a deep tone, "In the next part, drilling will begin where the signals are the..." Like, comment, share, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next twist. The next chapter could change everything. As the night settled over Oak Island, the air felt different. Even though everyone was tired, nobody wanted to leave the camp. The excitement from the discovery had mixed with a strange pressure that no one could explain. It was the kind of silence where every sound, every rustle of wind, felt meaningful. The crew kept staring at the ground scans on the table, each person trying to guess what could be waiting underground. Rick walked around the camp slowly, looking at each member of the team. He saw something rare in their eyes. It was not just excitement. It was something deeper. It was the feeling people get when they stand at the edge of something that could change everything. He knew that once they dug into the deeper reading, things would never be the same again. Oak Island had always held secrets, but this time, the secret was calling out stronger than ever. Marty sat beside the scanner printouts. He kept running his fingers along the deep red lines that showed the massive metallic signals coming from below. He had seen strong readings before, but nothing like this. The signals were too stable, too clear, and too large to be random. Something heavy was down there, something shaped, something that wasn't meant to be disturbed, at least not easily. Emma and Dr. Spooner were whispering to each other about the chemical tests they had done. Emma believed the signals might be coming from a sealed chamber. Dr. Spooner thought it might be a solid metal plate or perhaps structure. Both ideas were shocking. A sealed chamber under Oak Island would be the most groundbreaking discovery in the history of their work. A solid metal plate buried deep would mean the builders had placed something extremely valuable there. Billy leaned back in his chair, staring at the fire. Even he, a man who had seen almost everything on heavy job sites, felt something strange. He finally said, "If a chest lying on top was worth $2 million, then whatever is below is 10 times more serious." Everyone nodded silently. The numbers didn't matter anymore. History mattered. The truth mattered. And the secret waiting beneath the ground mattered the most. Rick finally sat down with the team. His face looked calm, but his mind was racing. He began to speak softly. "We have come this far because of trust and hard work. What we found today, it's only the beginning. Tomorrow, we dig deeper, but we must do it carefully. Whatever
Below could be fragile, important, or dangerous. We don't know yet." The crew listened closely. Rick's words carried weight, especially tonight. As the fire crackled in the middle of the camp, Jack asked a question that had been bothering everyone. "Rick, do you think this could be the main treasure?" Rick didn't answer right away. He looked toward the dark trees, then back at the glowing screens. After a long pause, he said, "I think we are closer than ever before." Those words sent chills through everyone. The night grew colder and the camp lights flickered. A light breeze passed through, brushing the tents and equipment. Oak Island had always been mysterious, but tonight it felt alive. It felt as if the island was waiting, watching, listening. Emma stood up and walked toward the scanning device. She pressed a few buttons to look at the numbers again. The device beeped softly and the readings glowed on the screen. Bright red, strong signals, no weakening, no distortion. That meant whatever was below was made of dense material. Gold could do that. Silver could do that. But large amounts of those metals buried together was extremely rare. Dr. Spooner looked up at Emma and asked, "Still the same numbers?" Emma nodded. "Yes, not even 1 point drop." That was surprising. Usually after disturbance around the area, signals changed a little. But these readings were steady, like they were protected somehow. Marty rubbed his forehead and said, "This is no accident. Something big was placed under there on purpose, and someone went through a lot of trouble to hide it the right way." Rick added, "And someone wanted it to stay hidden." The crew slowly finished their dinner, but no one really tasted the food. Their minds were on the next day, what they would find, how deep they would have to dig, what dangers they might face. Oak Island had a long history of unexpected collapses, flood traps, and underground dangers. The deeper the crew went, the more careful they had to be. When the team finally headed to their tents, the camp was quiet again. Only the soft sound of the ocean waves could be heard in the distance. Rick stayed awake longer than everyone. He walked toward the dig site alone, standing right where the readings were strongest. The ground looked ordinary, just soil and stones, but Rick felt something beneath his feet, a hidden weight, a hidden truth. He whispered to himself, "We are not done yet." The moonlight shone through the trees and touched the dig's
items centuries ago. What were they trying to protect? What were they trying to hide? And why Oak Island? When Rick finally returned to his tent, the island felt quiet again. But that feeling of mystery didn't fade. Everyone slept, but their sleep was heavy and full of thoughts. No one knew what tomorrow would bring, but everyone sensed something unforgettable was coming. As the morning sun arose, the crew gathered early at the site. No one waited for instructions. Each person picked up tools, equipment, and gear. Marty brought the updated drilling plan. Emma had the scanners prepared. Dr. Spooner had fresh clay samples on his table. Billy started his machine and waited for Rick's signal. Rick stepped forward and looked at the team. His voice was firm. "We go slow, we go careful, and we go together."
Billy nodded and moved his machine closer to the marked spot. The scanner beeped again, showing the same strong metallic readings. The ground beneath almost felt like it had a heartbeat. The first drill went into the ground with a smooth sound. Everyone watched the drill rod as it disappeared deeper. 2 feet. 4 feet. 6 feet. The soil came up normal at first, but at around 7 feet, the drill hit a strange layer. The sound changed. It became hollow, almost like hitting a wooden board buried under dirt. Marty immediately stepped closer. That's not natural. The drill went a bit deeper. Then the strange sound came again, this time louder. A hollow echo. Emma's eyes widened. There is something down there. Something flat. Rick took a deep breath. Go slower. Billy adjusted the pressure of the drill. They drilled deeper. 8 feet. Then 9. And at exactly 10 feet, the drill struck something hard. The machine shook slightly. The sound was metallic, sharp, and ringing, like hitting a massive metal plate. The entire crew froze. That sound was unlike anything they had heard before. Billy shut off the drill. Silence filled the site. The crew stared at the drill rod as if it had just touched the heart of Oak Island. The metallic echo slowly faded, but the shock on everyone's faces remained. Rick slowly knelt beside the hole and touched the soil with his hand. The smell of damp earth rose around him. He whispered, "It's there. Something is really there." Emma grabbed the scanner and scanned the hole again. The screen lit up with the brightest red they had ever seen. "It's big," she said softly. "Much bigger than the chest." Dr. Spooner added, "And whatever it is, it's solid metal." Jack looked at Rick and asked the question everyone feared and hoped for at the same time. "Is this the treasure?" Rick didn't say anything at first. He looked at the team, then at the ground, and then toward the sea. After a few seconds, he answered in a quiet voice, "I think we just touched the real secret of Oak Island." A deep wave of emotion passed through the group. Excitement, fear, hope, curiosity. Oak Island had finally spoken, and the message was clear. They were closer than ever before. The crew stood quietly around the drill site, each person trying to process what had just happened. The metallic sound still echoed in their minds. It felt unreal, like a moment they had waited years to hear. The morning sun was rising higher, casting long shadows across the ground. It made the site look even more mysterious, as if the island wanted to keep the secret in darkness a little longer. Rick looked at the drill rod again, then at Billy. "We need to open the hole wider," he said calmly. "Slow and steady, no rushing." Billy nodded, started the machine again, and began clearing the top layer of soil with precision. The ground was soft at first, but soon the machine reached that strange layer they had hit earlier. When Billy scraped it gently, the bucket made the same hollow sound again. Jack stepped closer and placed his hand on the surface. It felt firm, almost like thick wooden planks buried long ago. Dr. Spooner knelt down and brushed the dirt aside with his glove.